Now, listen to what else Trump said about the China tariffs.
This week, we saw Chinese President Xi Jinping visit with 3 of our allies. Should you be worried that they're growing closer?
No.
Mr. President, will you pick up the phone?
Nobody can compete with us. Nobody.
You said there was a relationship with President Xi. Why not pick up the phone and call him and make a deal?
Oh, we're going to make a deal. We'll have a deal. I think we're going to make a very good deal with China.
Michael Pillsbury, joins me now. Michael, so Gordon Chang says that the Trump tariffs come at the worst possible time for Xi Jinping. He's talking about the economy there and that it's weak, much weaker than what the Chinese broadcast. So do you think that China will suffer more from these tariffs than we will?
You know, it's hard to know. President Trump went through this in his first term when we had 13 rounds of trade talks. And we found out from the Chinese side that they have quantitative calculations they make for how much pain the tariffs will cost them, which sectors they're most sensitive about. So President Trump has a lot of knowledge about how to deal with Xi Jinping. 5 summit meetings they've had together. I think what they're looking for now, the Chinese spies are out, Cheryl. The Chinese spies right now are trying to find out what is that target tariff number that Trump just spoke about yesterday. Remember, he said, we're going to make a good deal, meaning concessions from China because of their weak economy, or he has a fallback. We'll just put a blanket tariff percentage, like an average tariff, which could be as high as 100% on everything that comes from China. That's scary to the Chinese. That's why I think their spies are out to try to see what is this targeted tariff number, that if we don't make a deal, we'll have to go with that. And I think that's a big secret that the Trump team wants to keep from the Chinese for good negotiating reasons.
That's interesting. Well, you know, look, we're talking about for 2024, the trade deficit we had with the Chinese, $295 billion. And the other thing that she's been doing, I think, is interesting, is he's been trying to court other countries. He just met with the leader of Spain last week. So each of these countries are trying to reach out to other countries to try and get them to take sides. I would argue that no one should be taking the Chinese side. They should be taking our side, Michael. But on the other side of this, it's what's happening in Europe with Ukraine. And so Ukraine's President Zelenskyy, he accused China of supplying Russia with weapons. He says he's going to present evidence about that next week. How do we respond? How does Secretary of State Rubio respond if indeed it is shown and proven that China is giving weapons to Russia?
Well, they need to be punished for it until they stop. The strange thing that's been going on, Cheryl, is for a year and a half now, China has floated its own so-called peace plan for the Ukraine. They've recruited about 25 countries. They've got the foreign minister of Switzerland hosting conferences for them. So China's trying to present one side that we're for a peace deal in Ukraine, just like they make claims also about trade and tariffs not really being important to them. But the real behavior of the Chinese on the ground seems to be quite different. Hypocritical is the softest word I could use for what's going on. And we saw this too, Cheryl, in the first round trade talks, end up with a 100-page agreement, then they didn't honor it. They didn't abide by it. President Trump has ordered a study of what's left of the January 15th, 2020 agreement that still could be implemented. So he hasn't given up on trying to implement that agreement, but the Chinese just don't abide by it.
Well,
so who do we believe, Cheryl?
Yeah, no. I understand that, and that's been a large accusation that's been made. But, you know, the United States appears to be making this new push at this point for a full ceasefire in Ukraine. Those talks have been ongoing this week. So how soon do we want this deal done, I think, in your opinion, real quick, before I move on?
Well, the Ukraine peace deal is more urgent. People are dying. President Trump and Vice President Vance are really focused on it. The Chinese could help. That's the irony here. They want to pretend like they're going to help us with the Ukraine ceasefire. But on the ground, if these are not volunteers, if these are real live Chinese troops, then this is one of the biggest setbacks in U.S.-China relations in 50 years.
Right.
It's a betrayal.
Absolutely. Michael, thank you so much for being with me.